and dunked on. We gon' leave you beat up, bullied, and dunked on. We said we only rock with Mavericks. If you a clone, then step off the canvas.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Box Score. I am your host, Noah Berkowitz, and I'm coming live to you from Emerson College. Let's get everything started with the World Series. The Dodgers beat the Yankees in 5 games to win their 8th World Series title, much to the dismay of many members of the Box Score team, but to the elation of both correspondents who joined me in this segment. Evan Sharrard, Danielle DuBois, break down why it went down the way we did. Evan, you start.
Oh, goodness gracious, I'm so happy. Everyone starts spreading the news.
No, you don't have to rub it in like this.
Because Frank Sinatra's on my side today, and that's because the Yankees lose, and it's all really because of the difference in late-game play and discipline defensively. The Yankees made 5 errors and the Dodgers made 2 in the series, which you might think in the grand scheme of things isn't a major difference overall, but in 7 games, making 5 errors is really rough, especially in the World Series.
And especially in that Game 5.
Absolutely. And when the Yankees made errors, the Dodgers capitalized. And that was the biggest key in this series, because if I tell you that the Dodgers only drove in 1 more run than the Yankees, would you buy that the Yankees lost in 5 games?
Yeah, I watched it with my own eyes. It was genuinely horrifying to experience. It was an undisciplined team, an undisciplined bullpen, and really undisciplined managerial.
And that right there, the play of the playoffs, and maybe the play of the career, maybe the play, that's one of the best World Series plays ever. That walk-off
first ever walk-off
Freddie Freeman.
100%.
Absolutely. And Freddie Freeman's going to do this 3 more times. There's the second one, and he's going to hit the 3rd, and then he's going to hit the 4th, which is tied for 4th all-time in World Series home runs. Yeah, there's another one on the short porch and another one in the short porch. Isn't it nice when the Yankees actually get hit by their own field? I always complain about that short porch when the Red Sox get dinged by it. When the Yankees get hit by it, I love it. And that is a huge RBI double. Teoscar Hernandez was immense in the Dodgers winning this series, especially in that position. And once the Dodgers had that bases loaded, I think that's when I knew. I tuned in right then, unfortunately for me, but actually fortunate because I got to see all the good stuff when the Dodgers won the game, and how sweet it is to have Mookie Betts drive in the game series winning RBI against the Yankees.
I think it says
Red
more
Sox
about
always.
your franchise's current state that you're just happy we lost.
Well,
Okay.
Before Danielle goes, there's a great thing about being a Red Sox fan. We get to be happy every year because we're either in the playoffs and the Yankees aren't, or we're celebrating the Yankees losing every single year.
That is a fair point. In the Red Sox franchise, we'll get into that whole nother thing.
Right, but let's talk
about it.
You're talking about why the Dodgers won. Yes. Why did the Yankees lose?
Honestly, we can go on and on. There's multiple different reasons. The offense was there, like Evan said. It was it was honestly a really good series by the Yankees, except for the errors and except for one key player that we all know.
Does he wear 99?
I think so, actually.
Guys, I feel very personally targeted.
I'm sorry. We don't mean to.
I'm sandwiched in here.
It's just too easy. But Aaron Judge, the judge was definitely not in court for these 5 games. That is for sure. I don't know necessarily what it was, but if you just look at his stats throughout the entire postseason, 9 hits, 3 home runs. One of them was in the series in Game 5, which great. It was a beautiful home run, just a little bit too late. 9 RBI. His batting average, 184, you guys.
Now, I hate to be that person, but that is not much better than Austin Wells in the World Series.
Yeah.
And Austin Wells is literally a black hole in the lineup.
That's
true, very true. However, when you look at this Yankees team and how much Judge did for them throughout the entire regular season, this is your dude, your franchise player, and just silent crickets almost. It was astounding how poor of a show up it was for him.
I feel like with, again, a better manager in place, better game
100%.
management, this is a tighter series and better discipline, like I think all 3 of us have said.
I agree.
And this really could have been the Yankees' last opportunity for the next couple of years. If Soto walks, if you can't sort out the bullpen, there's a lot of different issues.
Yeah, Garrett Cole just stopped it out. He might not come back.
Yeah, there's a lot to mull over. Yeah. But thank you both. next year is our year. I'll say it over and over and over again, and maybe it'll come true one day. But now, with the first official college football playoff committee poll being released tomorrow, our talent have their minds made up on their own top fives. I'm joined by Aidan Crooke, Everest Leach, and Nandan Nair. Guys, how are your top teams shaping up?
Thank you. Or Noah, sorry about that. I've got Nandan with me right here.
We'll get to it.
Starting at number 1 for us, we've got the team that should be number 1, the team that the actual committee is going to have at number 1. It's the undefeated Oregon Ducks. Guys, what do we think about this team?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think there's any doubts here. I will say it's been kind of a year where every single team has been a bit off this year. Every single team feels very beatable, has their flaws. But in the midst of all that, Oregon really feels like that one consensus number 1 team. I mean, they're 9-0. They look so strong. They beat down Michigan earlier this week.
Yeah.
I mean,
and that Ohio State win.
And that Ohio State win was
They're the best of the year.
Absolute juggernaut from the Big Ten, and showing that the Pac-12 can transition to the Big Ten easily.
Absolutely. Now, moving on at number 2, we've got the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, this might be a little bit controversial because they did lose to Alabama in that just thriller. But since then, they knock off Texas. They're playing really well.
And they still currently lead the SEC. One of the big things about Georgia is that they weren't in the lead for the SEC on Saturday night. When Texas A&M lost, Georgia now has the SEC spot. So now it's like, if they can hold on to that spot for the next few weeks and make it to the SEC championship, we could see them in a New Year's Six game.
They can, but I have to disagree with this one. I personally have them at 3. I just think they've just been very inconsistent offensively. Their quarterback, Carson Beck, has been poor, in my opinion. He threw 3 interceptions against Florida and was bailed out by their incredible defense, and he's thrown 11 this whole year. That defense really has been the big thing going for them. They again lost to what I would say is, I think we can all agree, the worst Alabama side in quite a couple years now.
Oh, awful.
Awful, yeah. And they still managed to lose. And so I just really, I'm not sold on Bama, on Georgia. I'm really not sold on them.
Heck, I wouldn't be sold on Bama either after what I've seen.
Right. All right, we've still got Georgia at number 2, though. Moving down, we have the other big dog in the Big Ten, Ohio State. The Buckeyes get a big win against Penn State. That's a game some people think maybe they lose with Ryan Day, who has struggled in big spots. They get it done. They're still only a 1-loss team to Oregon. What do we think about the Buckeyes?
I have them at number 2, honestly. I think they are, at least as of right now, the number 2 team in the nation. As we said, they just beat who was number 4 Penn State, I believe.
Number 3.
Number 3.
They've fallen to 7 after the
biggest ranked game of this past weekend. They came back. They were down 10, scored 14 unanswered points. Just looked so solid over the course of that game. And honestly, I just think in their current status, they've played a couple of ranked teams. Yes, I agree with a lot of these teams, the strength of schedule is a concern. But I think if we compare Georgia and Ohio State, I feel like Ohio State just has the edge.
And to that point, I believe that Ohio State was the most dangerous team heading into the season. And then they lost to Oregon.
Yeah.
They can still keep going, but one of the things that is that Texas and Michigan are going to be watching very intently. The game could decide very much whether or not Ohio State goes to a New Year's Six game.
But just to point that out, it was a 1-point loss. They went toe-to-toe with what we said again was the consensus number 1 team in the nation.
Yeah.
I think that
and maybe outplayed them. Oregon
I
caught
would
some
say
lucky
so.
breaks at the end
I
of that
could see
game.
that too.
We mentioned Texas because that's who we still have here at number 4. Even after the loss to Georgia, they go on the bye. This team is still so good. They've got so much talent. I love what Sark has built here. And Quinn Ewers, if he can play consistent football, I still think Texas can make the national championship.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we've seen from Texas is like, oh, what happens when Quinn Ewers gets hurt? What happens when Arch Manning has to step up? They've done that seamlessly, and they have shown that they can still be a playoff team with that. However, like we mentioned, the loss to Georgia and a close call against Vanderbilt, they could very well be out of the SEC race with another loss.
Well, that's the thing. They could be out with another loss. However, and that is my little concern here, I personally have them going back at 5. I think the bye plays a big role into this. But at the same time, I also think just considering Miami in the first place, I think Miami should be that 4th team.
I have Miami as 3.
That's fair. And I think, yes, you can argue they are in a relatively weaker conference, so to say. And yes, they haven't played any, they've had a cupcake schedule, let's be honest. But they're still 9-0, they're still undefeated, one of the few teams in the country that's still undefeated in this top 25. And so, Yeah, not to shift focus, but I do like the look of Texas. I do like the look of them.
All right, well, we've got to shift focus back to our number 5 team, and this might shock some people.
Oh, Lord.
We've got the Indiana Hoosiers here.
Really?
You're out of your mind for that one,
Wow.
Everest.
This is the committee. This is what we've decided
Well, the
on,
committee's
and
tripping too then.
The committee is Everest
Hear me
here.
out.
The
Hear me
committee's
out.
tripping.
This Indiana team, undefeated. They're scoring the second most points per game in the country. Their defense only allowing 13 points per game, so they are just blowing teams out. Curtis Rourke, their quarterback, is having an outstanding year, and they've got 5 wide receivers that are all contributing. That offense is electric, and I don't like Ohio State's chances against them in the upcoming weeks here. I think
Are
that
you
big game-
serious?
I think Indiana's a serious threat and can make it to the Big Ten championship.
Well, if anything, this game against Ohio State is a fraud check in that case.
That's true.
I do agree with that. I think they handled business against Penn State. I don't think Indiana's going to be any different.
It's going to be an Ohio State win, not a
We'll
one.
see. We'll
But
see
I
how
am
it
excited
goes.
to see. I think Indiana has potential, but I don't think they're number 5. I think they're on the hunt, but it's a little iffy there. I respect the take, though.
I think Indiana's great.
Indiana's got it.
All right, listen, I get it. Very different opinions from the triple, but regardless, switching from the football field to the football pitch, Boston is welcoming a brand new franchise to the city, albeit not without some controversy. The new NWSL team, named Boss Nation, has caused a discussion across the country. Here to continue that discussion with me is Danielle DuBois and Nandan Nair. Now, Danielle, where did it all go wrong?
I think there were a few places where I can pinpoint where it went wrong. I think, first of all, we can all criticize the name, Boss Nation.
Right.
There was so much potential
What does
there.
it even mean?
What is that?
It's an anagram for Bostonian. I'm not a big fan
What is
of
that?
it. I don't.
What's the correlation?
Exactly.
Right, exactly.
I don't get it.
I don't want to have to do the New York Times crossword to figure out what my favorite
Right.
franchises.
Emerson students, we don't
Is
like
the-
putting
are there
math
are there
together,
nick-
and
is their
that seems
nickname
too
going to
much.
be the Bostonians?
Exactly.
Like what is
what are they?
what are they?
It's weird. I
No
don't
identity.
like that. The second place, and I think the biggest place that they went wrong, and I think you guys both know it, but the Too Many Balls campaign.
Yeah.
Yep.
That was
That was pretty bad.
Talk
It was very
about
bad.
that. Every part about it. If you haven't looked it up, do so. Definitely educate yourself a little bit about it before, and then come back to us. We'll still be here
well,
talking
yeah,
about
and
it.
We'll
for
be
those,
here.
for those who don't know, the Too Many Balls campaign was meant to be that there's
Yeah.
too many men's sports
Right.
teams here in the city. But
And I think that that's a fair way to take it. Like when we are looking at Boston as a whole, we have the PWHL team, which is just developed.
Yeah. Right.
Other than that, it's really college sports for any women's sport. So it's really awesome that they get a soccer team now that we can continue to support women's sports here. However, starting off on this foot was just such a bad taste, and it's automatically having Bostonians mad at them to begin with, which is an awful way to start off.
and
your
on top of that,
franchise.
they came under fire for the fact that there are NWSL players who are transgender women.
Right, right.
So the Too Many Balls campaign,
It's just insensitive.
very
It is,
insensitive,
it is.
very distasteful.
Yep.
What do you have a similar but different take on this?
Yep, and I was actually just going to mention what you mentioned, that the fact that there are many transgender women in the league, and so I think first off, it's just an insensitive it's an insensitive campaign. I do understand the sentiment, but here's my big issue, right? Is I think they're launching in 2026, and 2026 is arguably the biggest year for U.S. soccer.
Yeah.
100%.
Ever. We have the Club World Cup coming in 2025, the World Cup coming in 26.
Yeah.
And this is the perfect chance to expand women's soccer. It's a perfect chance to give Boston a team, especially given Boston is a soccer powerhouse, I would say, especially in terms of the
Yeah.
women's game. We have had a bunch of
Yeah.
World Cup winners come from Massachusetts and come from the New England area.
Yeah.
But I just think there just wasn't enough planning in here. And I think, as you mentioned, I don't see an identity in this team. I mean, we have so many amazing names in the league, and then you have Boss Nation. I mean,
Right,
what
it
is
felt out of touch. Like the people who were trying to make this name,
they overthought it.
they thought
did.
too hard, and in many ways didn't think at all.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of it felt very like they didn't pull the audience.
No, exactly. And I think there's another little level of concern for me is where the stadium is located in Massachusetts. I know
Absolutely.
they're renovating it and it will look nice. However, it's outside of the city. And I know it's really hard to get a stadium in the city. The Celtics are in talks about it right now. If they get a new owner, do they get a new stadium? If so, it's hard in Boston. So it makes me really wonder what their fan base will be like if they already made so many customers mad and they're out of the city, out of people's way to get to.
The question is if they're able to market to people in Boston, but more importantly, yes, I know the MBTA. We all know how the MBTA is.
Don't even get me started on the MBTA.
But find some form of transportation to bring people in from Boston. I think Boston college students are going to be, well, college students in Boston, not to be confused with that. I think those are the biggest audience. So yeah, I think how they market to it will be interesting.
All right. Well, thank you both. Hopefully, Boss Nation can listen to the city, listen to the fans, and make this right. We have to head to commercial, but coming up, we've got a lot more to unpack. Some Premier League soccer, the return of Crooke's cage, and what in the world is going on with Joel Embiid. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the Box Score. Now, if you're a Man United fan, the dog days continue and the search for a new permanent manager does too. Erik ten Hag is now Erik ten gone. And to help me discuss the fallout, I'm joined by Nandan Nair and Cam Veal. Now, Cam, what's going on in Manchester?
Well, Erik ten Hag was sacked after 85 matches, and honestly, as an Arsenal fan, I gotta say I'm sad because
Me as well.
Any other
Me as
opponent
well.
in the
yeah, I mean, we won a lot
We're all
against
very
them.
upset.
It was but it was a long time coming, and some might say even too long, because he's been around for a really long time.
Yeah.
He's been with the club for 85 matches, 44 wins, 14 draws, and 27 losses. That is not good by Manchester United standards, and that is reflected by the current bosses after Ferguson. He has the third lowest point per game tally out of all the managers that have managed Man United since
And there's been a lot of them.
There's been a lot of them, and speaking of which, he's also been the worst in Europe among all of those managers.
Wait, the worst out of anybody?
Out of any of them, anyone.
anybody.
I mean, we all remember, And like Mourinho won the Europa League, and since then they've won 8 out of 5 Europa League games, which is good. They've played 6 Champions League games. Take a guess how many they won. Just take a guess.
I wonder.
I don't know.
1. It's in
Just
the
a
name.
single one?
Just the single one, and they lost 4.
Yep.
Yeah. Could never be my Liverpool. Could never.
Ooh, okay.
Never.
I don't know about that one, but
Whoa. Listen, this is not the debate. I don't know. I can't hear you from all the way up here, top of the league.
okay. We'll get to that later. We'll get to that later.
Nandan, you have thoughts on this?
I do, yeah, and I think it's interesting you bring up the points per game rate because, interestingly, he actually has the joint second or third highest win percentage of United managers over the last couple of years. He's at 51%. Only above him are Van Gaal at 52 and Mourinho at 54.
Right.
But as we mentioned, clearly a lot of those wins are fraud wins. They don't come where it matters.
Yes.
And I think the big issue here is that I thought Ten Hag when he came in, we all know how good he did at Ajax. He was a brilliant manager. He came in, and over the last 2 years, they've just lost their identity. I mean, he was sitting here complaining about He was sitting here saying that draws in the Champions League and Europa League were good things. He was saying it's good that they were unbeaten instead of winning.
Right.
The standards have gone, and I think he just didn't really manage his players well. We saw with the Ronaldo saga, the falling out, how that happened.
That was an entirely other
and if you think that was bad, then the Jadon Sancho incident happened.
Oh my God.
And so his man management has just been.
Or how not to take a darker turn, but the way he managed the Mason Greenwood situation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not to mention, even his talent ID has just been atrocious. I mean, his entire transfer strategy has been finding ex-Ajax players that are now washed up that he thinks could be good. I mean, Anthony for 80 million.
Mr. Aura himself.
Mr.
I don't know
Aura,
what you're talking about.
the walking fidget spinner for more money than I don't even know what.
Walking
I mean,
fidget spinner.
walking
I'm going to start using that one. That's a good insult. Okay.
But Nandan, that does beg the question, is the problem the players or the management or the team owners?
I was going to bring that up, actually,
Okay.
because I think the main issue here is it's a structural issue at United. You know,
agree.
when the
I
issue
agree.
has been coaches keep coming in, inheriting a batch of players from across different eras.
Right.
They try and throw themselves in, it doesn't work. I mean, with Mourinho, for example, he came in with 3 different managers, Van Gaal, Moyes, Solskjaer. He had to fix them. He tried to throw Mourinho players in, and then Solskjaer came in. He had Mourinho players on top of all that. He had his own players. Ten Hag came in, Mourinho players. He had Solskjaer players.
So they're all just
these.
layering on top
It's just
of each
They're
other.
laying on top of
And
it.
it's just a bunch of bad on top of a bunch
It's
of
a
bad.
bu-
Nothing.
Exactly.
You're fixing the problem, but
You're not even fixing
the
the
foundation
problem.
is cracked,
No.
and you're trying to paint the
But
room.
here's
So
the
it's-
thing.
you're-
They're not even fixing the problem.
Yeah, I mean, nothing's being fixed.
Nothing's
I
being
know.
fixed
Where
here.
are they in the league right
They're
now?
14th.
Dude,
Terrible.
I gotta tell you, there'd be nothing sweeter to my ears than to hear about United getting relegated. But again, who takes over? Who's the replacement?
Well, Ruben Amorim from Sporting
Mm-hmm.
CP has been conferred to be a replacement. Here's my issue. I think he's a brilliant manager. I think
agree.
he's done a really great job at Sporting CP. My fear is he's going to become exactly what Ten Hag has become. Because
Mm-hmm.
this job right now is even more difficult than when Ten Hag took it. It's a mix of players that frankly don't want to be there. They're on outrageous salaries.
Right.
No one in
Big
the
egos,
club.
no team.
No big egos, no
It
team.
reminds me of a certain club that you support.
Hey. We're in a Champions League spot, so I don't want
It
to
only took about
A couple
$7
years,
billion.
yeah. I don't know what you're talking about.
Hey, we're up now. I don't want to hear it.
You got to build from the academy. If I'm Ruben Amorim, you build from the academy. That's what you do, and you start winning games. I mean, not against Arsenal, but you
Hey,
know.
listen, I agree. That's just, it's the Liverpool way, I guess. But safe to say, these two are having the best time of their lives, making fun of Man United. But moving on, we are virtually halfway through the NFL regular season, which means midterm grades are due. Some players have got straight A's, and others may need to visit some academic advising sessions. Here to talk some mid-season report cards are Everest Leach and Danielle DuBois. Everest, go get us started.
All right, Noah, thank you very much. I'm going to get us started with Jared Goff from the Detroit Lions. Now, I know that may not be the first name you think of when you think superstar quarterbacks in this league, but Jared Goff has been the most efficient and accurate quarterback in the league this year. He has 14 touchdowns to 4 interceptions, as you see right there. That completion percentage, just under 75%, the highest in the league. He also has the second highest passer rating at 115, second only to Lamar, and his team is doing great. The Lions are 7-1. They lead the league in points per game. And I just love this guy because this is someone who was doubted throughout his career, including by me at times. But he's now playing the best football of his career. He's got to have an A from me. Ace in the test, and so are the Lions. They look like a serious contender.
Oh, I completely agree with you. That is a great pick by you. First of all, Goff is having a great year, and I, too, have been one of his doubters. So good for him for proving us wrong and getting some A's in school.
Look at that.
Now, going over to my first pick, also an A, well, maybe an A- player, but Sam Darnold is kind of surprising all of us currently. He kind of came out of nowhere, I must say. His completion rate could be higher. I will point that out immediately, which is why it's an A-. However, 1,900 passing yards, 17 touchdowns with 7 interceptions this year. He's looking really great, playing some of his best football as well. And this Vikings team, I mean, they are really exciting. You have Justin Jefferson.
I gotta tell you, though, I have to say, the Sam Darnold surprise is only you. Because us Jets fans have known from the very beginning that Sam Darnold can take a team to where he needs to take a team. He just needs the foundation around him. And I'm actually shocked you've only given him an A- given that he is an MVP candidate.
Okay, I just think he has a little bit more improvement personally, but I think he's doing great. And my bad, I always seem to disregard the Jets, especially their quarterback situation.
Whoa.
My bad for looking over
Listen,
that.
I don't hear the Jacoby Brissett crowd over there.
Okay, we'll move on from that. But Sam Darnold is having a wonderful season. And even in his last game, an 82.4% completion rating, 3 touchdowns, 290 passing yards. This man, he's an A- in my book. could move up to an A+ though by the end of the year.
An A+. Wow, I agree though. Sam Darnold has been impressive, and it is surprising, Noah. Get out of here with that. Moving along, we've been a little bit too nice so far, I think. A little bit too, goody two-shoes over here. Let's talk about someone who I'm going to say needs a little bit of tutoring, and that's the Seahawks' DK Metcalf. Now, Metcalf, you see it here, 35 receptions for 568 yards. That's not horrible. He is averaging 81 yards per game, which, again, not bad. But it's not what this Seahawks team needs him to be doing. He's turned the ball over in 2 crucial points this season, both drives where it's a one-score game. Seahawks are driving down, and DK loses a fumble. That changes those games, and it's part of the reason that the Seahawks are 4-5 right now. He's also just been inconsistent, which has been a thing with DK. He'll go off for 120 yards in some games, but then he has multiple games with under 60 yards receiving this year. That's not great, and I just think, obviously, he's an athletic freak. We know he's fast. We know he's strong. But does he get some of the more minute details that are really going to take this Seahawks offense to another level? I'm not sure. That's why he gets a C. Not a failing grade. He's still passing, but I think we can get that up a little bit.
I want to throw it back at you a little bit, though, and kind of challenge this grade. I do understand where you're coming from, but do you think any of it is his teacher's fault? His QB is kind of...
I understand that to a lot of people, Geno hasn't been great, and that's probably fair. But we've still seen Geno have success with this Seahawks roster. He had maybe the best year of his career with the Seahawks and with DK Metcalf. You still see the talent there on certain throws from Geno. Maybe he needs to be a little bit more consistent as well. Maybe it can be put them both in a group study session, but I still think DK's got to be a little bit better.
Okay, that's fair. I'll end the mood on a little bit of a lighter and a happier tone, and I'm going to move it over to my last pick, George Kittle. George Kittle gets an A for me, and I know everybody's like, yeah, of course he does. But he's not as talked about this season as he has been in past, and I wanted to kind of give him his credit on this 49ers team that is currently all in the hospital, it seems like. Everybody is going down, but this man has been consistent throughout. 40 receptions, 503 yards, 6 touchdowns, averaging 12.6 yards a carry. I mean, he's consistently good, and that's what the 49ers need right now with everybody going down with sicknesses or injuries. He is the go-to guy here. He gets an A for just showing up week after week, and in my book, that's a good tight end, and I know he has not gotten the credit he deserves for this season.
Yeah, and I appreciate you saying that, especially regarding his health, because Kittle has been on the field this year, which has been a big concern, or maybe black mark on his career so far. As he can't really stay healthy. Even DK has been injured. That's another thing, but Kittle's been awesome. I appreciate you giving him the love.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I mean, I wish I got A's for just showing up to class, but alas. Now to the hardwood, or I guess you could say hard time getting onto the hardwood. The NBA has launched an investigation into Joel Embiid and the Philadelphia 76ers for improper load management practices. We've seen a growing trend of players sitting out games, taking rest days, and not playing for weeks at a time. With me to discuss what the future of the NBA looks like and why we should care about this growing practice is Nandan Nair and Aidan Crooke. Now, Nandan, debrief us about Joel Embiid.
Yeah, well, you know, Joel Embiid has had an interesting narrative over the past couple years. I mean, I know me personally, as a Celtics fan, we love to call out the fraud allegations, and frankly, I think they're true.
I would agree.
Guilty as charged.
Guilty as charged. But I think there's two sides to this. I think with Joel Embiid, obviously, he's had a lot of injury issues. His meniscus, I mean, his meniscus is about as faulty as my ACLs, you know. This has been going on for ages.
And for those of you who know Nandan has no working ACLs, and I'm surprised his knees are still holding together.
Sounds like you need load management, blood.
Frankly, you could throw me on the field right now, and I'd probably have better availability than Joel Embiid. But that's the issue, is when he's on the field, he's a freak of nature. I mean, he's 2-time scoring champion, I believe 7-time All-Star. He's just incredible. But the thing is,
he doesn't play.
He doesn't play. And the best ability is availability.
Absolutely.
And so the whole narrative of, you know, oh, Embiid's been robbed of the MVP. Well, he's won it when he shouldn't have in the first place. Yes. In fact, he's never played more than 68 games in his NBA career, in a single season.
He's never played a full 82.
He's never played a full 82. The most he's played has been 68.
The minimum for awards now is what?
65.
65?
But again, last year he played 39, which is atrocious. But again, I'm going to come back to the point. I just think, I understand injuries, right? Obviously, players have to stay healthy. You want to have a long career. But with Embiid, it's just getting a little bit ridiculous at this point. I mean, he said he's never going to play back-to-back games
For the rest of his career.
For the rest of his career.
And he didn't play the first couple games of the
Well,
season.
and what blows my mind is that you're willing to sign up to play for Team USA, go win a gold medal in Paris,
then come back and
then all of a sudden you're not available for day one.
And
that's stupid.
And it's not like he's doing anything else over the summer other than Team USA. He's not playing in camps. He's not working crazy hard.
And
he signed up, played for Team USA, and then ate donuts on the couch.
And I think the argument for load management, I understand load management when you're in, like, you're past 70 games into the season. You're later in the season. Playoffs are upcoming. You're secured. But here's the thing. We haven't even started the season.
Right.
Nothing has even happened.
We have no season to talk about yet.
And I would think, given a player that, I'm going to say this. We've seen the Lions and the Commanders rebuild, and Joel Embiid has still not made it to a conference finals. I mean, if I were him, I know damn well I'd be trying to play right now.
No,
and I understand injuries, but I think there's a difference between injuries and then improper load management.
So from East Coast to West Coast, you're going to talk about Kawhi Leonard.
Oh, Lord, don't
Who is
start.
like the father of load management.
God, man. Like, we talk about Nandan being injured. Kawhi Leonard worries me to death, man. I love you, Nandan, but...
He's made of string beans at this point.
Dude, I don't even know if this guy's
Maybe
got
just
muscle.
string at
He
this
doesn't
point,
even
not
have
even
muscle
string
tendons at this point. That's where we're at right now.
Right, what
but
is
here's the thing. Kawhi Leonard has had issues with load management in San Antonio and with Los Angeles. Part of this is because, he has devastating injuries that set him back years, and you have to kind of work around that. He didn't really have that problem in Toronto. Balled out in Toronto. It seems like they took care of him up there. But the problem is that the Clippers have a freaking lawsuit over improper treatment of players. Not from the general managers, but from the physicians. Why? Why are we a top-tier pro-level basketball organization, but we can't make sure that our players are healthy?
Right, and so let's take the example of Lonzo Ball. I mean, he had an injury that had him out for 2 years.
And he's been out for 2 years,
No
and he
injury
has
should keep you out that long.
Well, not only should no injury keep you out for that long, but it's the fact that he did at least make the conscientious decision to sit out for that long.
Yeah.
And now he's back, basically full strength. And he's playing more games than Joel
and to
Embiid
that
and
end-
Kawhi Leonard.
And to that end, there's a difference between folding the hand rather than quitting every hand. Yeah, Lonzo Ball's out for a long time. Fine, take the recovery, focus on getting well, and focus on being in court shape.
Right.
But for Embiid, when you're skipping day one, that's hilariously bad, and that's a terrible look for organizations. If you're an NBA team, you don't want this. One of the things about Kawhi, averaged 23, 3, and 6 in 25 regular season games, only had 2 playoff games, stunk the bed up in that. If you want to win a title, you can't start 2 weeks after the All-Star game. That's my take.
Listen, I agree, but listen, we have another commercial break to get to, but don't get up. When we're returning, we're talking hockey, more college football, and some Formula One. Stick with us. Maggie, did you print out the script?
No, that was your job.
Maggie, oh my God, I do it every week.
No,
I told
but,
you this is the one
but we
I
talked
didn't
about
want
this.
responsibility.
Okay, I need to pick my wedgie.
Oh my God, look, they got us slushies. Freeze. Oh my God, we're here.
He's queer.
Now get used to it. Come on, give me my mic. Mic me. Hi, I'm Christian Mudrick.
And I'm Maggie Morlap
And you're watching Real Reactions.
on the Emerson channel.
Hi, I'm Aaron Kinigsberg, host of EIV's The Dish. Tune in every Friday for your chance to see what kind of bow tie I pulled out of my closet today.
Welcome back to episode 3, season 18 of The Box Score. Now, undoubtedly, the NHL has been growing a passionate audience slowly but surely. However, it still lags behind other major sports leagues here in the States. Does hockey have a marketing problem, or do people just not care? Joining me to find that out are Danielle DuBois and Evan Sharrard. Now, Danielle, let's talk about what's happening.
I definitely don't think it's that people don't care. There's definitely an urge for hockey, especially if you look in New England area in the college hockey world. It's getting a lot of attention.
Well, yeah, the college hockey world especially.
Yeah, so the NHL, it's like, what's the problem? I think there is a huge thing with marketing.
Okay.
A lot of it comes from not marketing your players. We've seen it with McDavid, we've seen it with Austin Matthews, and they've been trying over the past few years to promote them a little bit more and make them like huge faces of the franchises. They just don't know how to do it as well as the NBA specifically.
Well, I mean, the NBA is unbelievable at marketing their stars.
Yes.
They've got Stephen Curry,
Yes.
they've got LeBron James, Kevin Durant. But to the average viewer, no one really knows who Connor McDavid is, despite the fact that he is the LeBron James, the Kevin Durant, the Stephen Curry of the NHL.
Right. And I think a lot of it comes from different ways of social media marketing, and I think that's their biggest thing that they're really trying to do right now, and they're attempting at it, and you can see that there's definitely an attempt and a try there, but it doesn't seem to be latching on with our audiences. And then my second concern with marketing in the NHL currently is how expensive the tickets and the jerseys and all of it is, because hockey is a blue-collar sport.
Yeah.
That is their fan base. It always has been, and currently they're only focusing in on those that can really afford it and can drop a pretty penny for a seat.
I've tried going to Bruins games and I can't afford it. They're ridiculously priced.
For a very mediocre team
For a
right now,
very mediocre-
too.
Even back home in Jersey, the Jersey Devils, they've got the Hughes brothers, and it's a hot ticket at Prudential Center. It shouldn't be that expensive. But Evan, go off of that.
Yeah, well, Danielle, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I think after looking into it more, I think the NHL is on the right track now.
For sure.
They do have a problem with marketing their star players, and you mentioned Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid, and McDavid just showed you why he's very marketable as a talent. But I think one of the bigger problems as well with marketing the big stars, because what they've started to do is they've marketed younger ones, but staying on the big stars, we don't see any humanity there. It's just, that's a player. And I think that's a big problem in professional sports in general, is these athletes who people are betting on, et cetera, are getting like death threats, whatever. They're people. And in the same vein, as you can see this incredible goal by Austin Matthews, and you'll see some more, even more incredible. The guy that's doing that is not just an athlete. He's also a person who does other things and lives outside the hockey arena.
And in many ways, other leagues have sort of a positive parasocial relationship between fans and players, where they don't know each other personally, but it feels like you do.
Exactly.
Where I feel like there is a disconnect in hockey where the average hockey viewer doesn't know who's stepping on the ice because they don't put the name to the face.
I think hockey is a team sport more so than basketball is in the fact where in basketball, one person shoots the shot every single time a jump shot goes up.
Right.
But in hockey, you know, pass, score. One person scores the goal. But although the NHL has done a great job of targeting younger audiences because they need to get younger just like baseball did, I think one of the keys is we need some features on these people as humans, because I grew up in Chicago, and every time I'd see Patrick Kane on TV, he was so stiff.
Right.
And it was just like, okay, this is the best player in hockey in Chicago of this dynasty.
It's time the media train them.
Yeah, well, not just media train, but like sit down with maybe an actual journalist that's not just going to talk about sports. Let's see. I want to see David Pastrnak go bowling. I want to see what he does in his free time. That's going to make me like him more.
And I must say, you can see that a lot with the new series that they just did on Amazon Prime. You get to see that more personal experience, and I think that was a huge, huge first step. 100%.
Yes.
Yeah, and again, like other leagues have done it. Starting five for the NBA, Drive to Survive for Formula One. And I feel like the Formula One has really developed the playbook now for major sporting leagues to go after, to market their athletes. There's nobody who does it better than Formula One in terms of putting a name to a face, where you have an allegiance to a driver, you have an allegiance to a team, and it's very do or die. A lot of that is based off of really like marketing towards American women specifically. That is the disconnect, I think, from the NHL to major leagues like Formula One, to the NBA, to the NFL.
And Noah, just before you toss it, I think that the NHL has a huge problem with being split between Canada and the United States too, because NHL is the biggest sport in Canada, and then here it's the 9th.
Right. There's a million other sports that people tune into. But awesome work, guys. Thank you so much. Now, let's turn up the heat a little and swing things to the octagon, where we have the return of Crooke's cage. Without further ado, Aidan, take it away.
John Anik said it best a couple weeks ago at UFC 294, Holloway versus Topuria. We have GOAT-on-GOAT crime coming up in a couple weeks from Madison Square Garden. John Jones, the greatest of all time, takes on Stipe Miocic, the greatest heavyweight of all time. Why is that distinction there? I'll tell you in just a minute. Let's talk about John Jones first, though. He is undefeated. He is the current reigning and defending, undisputed, well, not undisputed. We'll talk about that in a minute, but heavyweight champion of the world. You can see here with his striking, oh Lord, I'm violating Daniel Cormier, I'm sorry. He goes high on the head kick, chases him down, walks him down again, solid left hook, gets the knee up, brings him down. But where he also thrives is his grappling. He had a junior college grappling background. He was very big on that, and he's had very, very massive submission wins. So undefeated, he has an L for 12-6 elbows, basically up and down, but they're now legal, so he's going to try to get those out of the rule book. He also has a no contest from that clip against Cormier where he tested positive for PEDs. Whatever, that's what happens. Beat Cyril Gane by submission at UFC 285, the clip you just saw, but he's dangerous at all times. He can knock you out, he can submit you. Do not sleep on this man. Now, let's talk about Stipe Miocic, the greatest heavyweight of all time. Blue-collar striker, had a D1 wrestling background as well, but is also a very big power hitter. You can see him working on Overeem here, working in the half guard. Gets through the hand guard, punches him a few times. One knocks him out, two for good measure. Mark Goddard stops it. Oh, Lord, here comes DC again. I'm sorry, DC. But Stipe gets DC in the corner, runs him, puts him out, gets his heavyweight title back. He is tied for the most title wins in UFC heavyweight history with 6 with Randy Couture, and is a very, very probable candidate to win the heavyweight title in a couple Saturdays. But we have one more man in the pocket, and I know it doesn't say I know it says Jones versus Miocic, but there's one man we have to keep in mind. The interim heavyweight champion, Tom Aspinall. Good Lord, what a rise this man has had. In his last 3 fights, 3 knockouts, but he has spent a total time in the cage, and Noah, you might want to get ready for this one, 3 minutes and 22 seconds. In his last 3 fights, 3 knockouts, each within 90 seconds. Do you know what that is? That's ruthless efficiency. Tom Aspinall is a power hitter. He puts you out, he gets you in and out, he comes in the cage, collects his check, leaves with the belt. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of ways that this can go. Part of it because Jones tore his pec last year before this fight. So, I've got 2 predictions for you this time. If Jones and Miocic stay in, or Aspinall comes in for Miocic, it's Jones by knockout or submission in 3. But if Jones comes out and anything happens, anything goes. Aspinall can walk out the undisputed heavyweight champion. Miocic could walk out the undisputed heavyweight champion. He could put the metaphorical O in John Jones's record. So a lot of crazy stuff happening, a lot of fights happening in Madison Square Garden. Really big thing to see here, ESPN Plus, 10 p.m., a couple Saturdays from now. That's it for me. Noah, what you got?
You know, he never ceases to amaze me. Again, too much blood and guts and gore, but Aidan, thank you so much. Now, back to some college football. Conference realignment has been arguably more impactful than the introduction of NIL. Some programs have benefited while others have floundered. Here to talk about the winners and losers of conference realignment is Everest Leach, Evan Sharrard, and Nandan Nair. Everest, who's your pick?
Thank you, Noah. You know, I think there are a lot of teams that are actually running with conference alignment and thriving, whether it be the Oregon Ducks or some other teams that you guys are going to talk about. But I want to focus on a team that's really been hit in a poor way by this conference realignment, and that's the Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, this Wisconsin team is a team that maybe has never had true championship potential in the past decade, but they've always been there. They've always been fun Big Ten watches. You see Wisconsin and Iowa facing off on a Saturday at 12 p.m., and it's entertainment, and it's big time. Now, as we see them rushing in for a touchdown, nobody cares because Wisconsin is bad. They're not great, but the other thing is that with conference realignment, they're not the story in the Big Ten. It's Oregon, it's Ohio State, it's Michigan, it's how everything else is shaking out, and Wisconsin is kind of falling by the wayside.
Right. So Evan, you have
Yeah.
a different team.
Yeah, and I hear you on all fronts there. That Wisconsin-Iowa game I would have tuned right into. But now it's just, I think it's just kind of boring on both fronts. But I have SMU.
Who is absolutely benefited.
Yeah, they've come from the American, a success story last season, going 11-3. But this year, right now, they're 8-1, and they're second in the ACC.
Did you? I know I tuned in. Did you guys see that game against Pitt? They absolutely trounced them. They were up 31-3 at the half.
And Pitt's good.
Pitt's very good.
That's not a bad team.
Pitt was undefeated.
Look at this.
Yes.
Anymore?
No,
Yeah.
not anymore.
And I think one of the best things, besides the money that will eventually come from the TV deal in over a decade, because SMU had to basically forego that to join the conference to get the invitation, which will rob them of that money, but they're going to get so much more national exposure. And in terms of competition and recruiting, they're now playing in the ACC. This is one of the top conferences in college football. This is where they do play stronger opponents, no matter who they're playing, because they're going to have to play the ACC teams, which means last season their highest was ranked 17th. This year they're already 13.
Yeah.
Which means that their trajectory, if they continue to win, is only up. So,
And I
what
love
that
that,
means
I
for
love that you talk about recruiting too.
Yes.
Especially because being positioned in the ACC, the
Yes.
Atlantic Coastal Conference, but being in Texas, you have
Yeah.
a major web of recruiting there
Yes.
that I wouldn't be surprised if you saw a 5-star to head
absolutely.
to SMU in the next
You
couple
might
of
see,
years.
I mean, when in the history of college football would you have ever seen SMU fighting Texas for a recruit?
Right.
You might just see it now.
Right. We should get Rice in on there. Nandan, you have a third team.
Yeah.
I do, and my team's I think of an interesting one. This isn't the kind of team that gets the 5-star recruits. This isn't a team with a lot of NIL money. This isn't the kind of team that anyone really willingly will transfer into, but it is by far the toughest team in the country, purely mentally. I'm talking about the Army.
Oh, yeah.
Come on.
The Army.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they've been insane. They've had 2 straight previous seasons at 6-6, and up until now, as an independent, their seasons really didn't have much to play for. I mean, obviously they had the Air Force games, which have always mattered and always had meaning, but now in the AAC, they seem rejuvenated. I mean, they're 8-0, unbeaten. They're ranked 18th in the country right now. They lead the nation in rushing with 360 yards.
If there's one thing the Army schools or the military schools love doing, it's pounding the ball.
Running the football.
Their quarterback right here,
Bryson Daly, baby.
absolute unit. And I think what's really interesting is he's kind of been at the core of them solving this identity crisis. Look at that.
goodness.
I mean, so smooth. They had this really weird identity crisis in 2023 where they tried to shift away from their traditional battering ram running game, and they kind of just became like a mediocre, average, struggling passing team. But this season, with Daly, they've shifted back into their battering ram approach. And I mean, look at this guy. Returning to their roots. He's been incredible. They look rejuvenated. And now with the current conference standings, they have a chance to make it to the AAC playoff, which means the winner of either that or the Mountain West would most likely make it to the expanded playoff. So now they're in a position where they could they're in a very good spot to make it into the AAC championship, and from there, potentially the college playoff.
There's a real possibility that there are kids out there who can say that they played in the college football playoff and also served in our new forces, and their grandchildren are going to absolutely keep those stories up.
They're going to be
annoying.
Oh,
my God.
absolutely. I can't wait.
I
to
cannot
see-
wait.
Them and then Navy. Obviously, Navy got killed
Yeah.
by Notre
Yeah.
Dame recently.
They did.
But Navy was playing great. Can't say the much.
They both were unbeaten for a good month and a half.
I know. You can't say the same about Air Force. We'll pretend that they'll get there eventually. But regardless, thank you guys. Still such interesting stuff. We're going to throw it to Abe Beitler in the field, who had an opportunity to catch up with Emerson's only D1 athletics team.
I'm Abe Beitler from the Box Score. Today we're at the Boston Common and we're going to be learning about Emerson's quad ball team. What got you into the sport?
I started because it was silly and I just grew to really love it and get into it. It's not the sport of all sports, but I've never been a very athletic person, and so this has been a really nice way to become engaged in communities like that.
What's special about quad ball compared to any other sport you may have played?
It's a mixture of a few different sports, so there's almost room for everybody to do anything in this sport, and also the community is just really amazing.
In the summer, there's the major league teams. Me and my other co-captain, we play for New York, and it's really intense. The rule set is really different, especially for the World Cup this summer. Even though we're not fully from that country, we get to represent our ethnic backgrounds. And I just feel like that's so exciting.
I've made some of the best friends I think I've ever known from playing quad ball. I think I'll always, when I stop playing, which I don't know when that'll be. There are like ways of playing after college, but I will always like remember the people I've met here as people I really love.
That's awesome. Just for the viewers, can you remind us what division Emerson is for quad ball?
We're D1.
We learned a lot more about a great sport from some great athletes with some great weather. I'm Abe Beitler signing off. Back to you in the studio.
Maybe I'll start taking up quad ball or ultimate frisbee. Anyways, thank you so much, Abe. We're going to head to one final commercial break, but don't leave just yet. We've got another edition of Evan's Film Room, and our talent have the opportunity to build their dream college football program. We'll be right back.
Sharrard, and we are about to enter the film room. So let me take you into this past Thursday night football game between the New York Jets and the Houston Texans. Let's roll the highlight. It's going to be 3rd down and 3 minutes left in the 4th quarter. So what am I seeing right here? First of all, let me tell you, the Jets are winning this game right now, 14-10. 3rd down and 3, Rodgers fires it up. What do we see? New Jet Davante Adams for a touchdown. And we're going to get another look at this. So cover 0 look, which means that there's nobody over the top of the field, man-to-man coverage on every receiver. And I got to say, at this point in the game, I know it's do or die. The Texans call this play to try and get a sack. We're going to see the play one more time here. But I just don't like press on Davante Adams right here as he's running this go route. It's a bad matchup for any DB that they're going to have in Houston. And Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams, I think if we're the Texans defensive coordinator, we should know that I'm calling cover 0. I might even risk running an extra player out to double team Davante Adams, so Rodgers has to take more time so that one of those rushers can get home, because what happened in that play is they ran a stunt. And what that means is the Texans running a stunt means that they're going to have one linebacker go like this and the other one go like this. So they're starting in this position, and instead of going straight on, they go to the opposite side defender. So if you're on the right side, you're going to the left, and on the left, you're going to the right. And they just didn't get enough time for that. Davante Adams is better than whoever else the Texans are going to put out on the field. Rodgers to Adams connection seems very similar, just in a different green this time. Noah, back to you.
Thank you so much, Evan. Insightful as always, and I love when you talk about my Jets so positively. Anyways, now to an underappreciated sport here on the Box Score. We're going to talk some Formula One. Both the Drivers and the Constructors Championship is coming down to the wire, and one mistake can change everything. Here with me to debate which driver and team has the chops to take it all home is Cam Veal and Danielle DuBois. Cam, come get us started.
Well, last weekend we had the Brazilian Grand Prix, and I gotta say, this might have been the greatest race I've ever seen in my entire life.
It might have been.
We had safety cars, we had
safety
red
cars,
flags, VSCs.
Everything. We had
delayed quali,
2 Alpines on the podium. What is this? Is this the upside down? I don't know what I'm seeing. They've only won 3 of those races.
Right.
The Red Bull haven't won any since Brazil. Just now they won. And they won. It was a statement win. He won with 20 seconds ahead of the last car. Out of the 20 racers, only 15 finished. And this is the type of race where you got to say, I'm here, I'm winning. You may be faster on the straights, but I'm the better driver.
Okay.
Point blank.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to debate with that because that was such an exciting race. And I do believe that that was the race for Max Verstappen to win, to kind of seal how this could end. Okay. However, I really do think Lando could make a push. We've seen him make a push this entire season, and he's not too far behind. Max has 393 points. Lando has 331. It would be really tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it and
It's
be like,
about a
oh,
60-point gap.
Yes, it is. It's going to be a tight race. But if Lando can finish out the season strong with little mistakes, like you said, Noah, one mistake and that costs you the championship this year.
Right.
So if it's one bad race for Max, one bad quali for Max, it's not completely over for Lando
But
by far.
Max did have a bad quali in
He
Brazil,
did. I
and
must
Lando
say
got
he
pole. And the part for me where it's hard to like think that Lando could do this is that he has had 8 pole positions in his entire F1 career. Noah, take a guess how many he's converted.
I'm gonna go out on a whim and say none.
Big fat 0.
Oh.
It's none.
It's
He has,
big shocker.
he has never led an opening lap in his entire career. His entire career.
It just feels it's horrifying.
It
the
really
conversion
is.
Statistics
If you had asked me 48 hours ago if Lando could have done more to get closer and close the gap, I would have said yes. But after this race, Max he got the fastest lap like almost every single lap. It's just 26 points adding on to that versus Lando only getting, what was it, like 5? Something like that.
Right.
I don't know if he could do it. If Max gets a DNF in Vegas, then we're gonna go
So
racing.
what I'm hearing from this is that the equation is better driver, worse car, still greater than
Yes.
Great driver.
Great driver, better car.
Yes, completely agree.
The best driver wins. Listen, thanks guys. Can't count out the papaya just yet. But now, to our penultimate topic tonight. The Ballon d'Or was recently awarded to Manchester City midfielder Rodri. Now, many are saying that Vinicius Jr. was robbed. And gratefully, I don't have to debate between the two, but our talent does. I'm joined once more by Cam Veal and Nandan Nair. Cam, who deserved the award?
I'm going to say it pains me in my soul to congratulate a Manchester City player, but
Really?
Rodri did deserve this.
You're going to say that Rodri deserves this? Okay.
I think so completely, and it comes down to the type of player he is. In the past couple of years, the Ballon d'Or has always been for a forward player, an attacking player. It's nice to see midfielders get that deserving award because without Rodri, Man City triple their losing rate. When they have Rodri on the team, they lose 10% of the time. Without him, it's 33%. That is a big deal for a Premier League team.
Right.
His trophy cabinet also speaks for itself. He won the Prem, he won the Club World Cup, the Super Cup, the Euro, and he was the best player at the Euros. He is also just someone you can rely on in that midfield. He led the Premier League in progressive passes into the final third, touches and carries. He won 206 duels, and he recovered 242 balls in the defensive end. He's just so solid for Man City. He went above and beyond what a midfielder should do. He was the best midfielder in the entire world. He is world class. And Vinny is a great player. He's an amazing attacker. But without him, Real Madrid still win. I think, Nandan, you're going to talk about that too.
I am going to talk a little bit about that because that is my main issue with the Vinicius Rob narrative is, look, I think Vinny was Madrid's best attacker last season. I think that is.
You're not even going to say that he was their best player.
No, because I
agree.
think that's a toss-up between him and Bellingham, and I think that's the interesting thing is for about the first 6 months of the season, the narrative was that Bellingham was running away with the Ballon d'Or. And then I'm not quite sure what happened, but he just kind of fell out of it.
He slowed down.
He slowed down. And Vinny did miss quite a good chunk of, I think, the first half of the season with some injuries. He came back. He was spectacular. I'm not going to deny that. They won the Champions League. He was Champions League player of the season, I believe. He scored in the final. Very good. But here's the thing. Whenever the Ballon d'Or happens during a year where there's an international tournament, it almost always plays the winning factor.
Yeah.
Messi won in 2023 after winning the World Cup, even though Haaland won the treble. Modric in 2018 won it after making it to the World Cup final. And yes, he did win the Champions League, but the World Cup was a big part of it.
Right.
And my big thing there is just that I think if Vinny even played decent in the Copa America, he would have been the front runner.
That's your difference maker.
That is difference maker. And frankly, I think people are gonna say it all over and over. You know, oh, if Vinny just won Vinny was Copa America away from winning. Well, if my grandmother had wheels, she'd be a bike, but she doesn't, so she's not.
Exactly.
So frankly, he didn't win the Copa America. He didn't play well in the Copa America. Rodri won it with Spain. He was player of the tournament, crucial to that. And I think that's ultimately
He was irreplaceable. And it just leaves one final thing to say.
Yeah.
Rodri, the player, Not Man City, the team. Raji, the player, went 74 matches unbeaten. That is an insane thing to do
That's
as a
ridiculous.
player. He is just, like, he's irreplaceable.
I hate to prop up Man City players. You
Exactly.
have to give her
I agree.
Exactly.
If my grandma had wheels, she would be a bike. Wow. Where did you come up with that one? Listen.
Shout out football Twitter, man.
Okay. Guys, you're the best. But to cap off the night, I thought we'd have a little bit of fun. Joining me is Everest Leach, Aidan Crooke, and Evan Sharrard, who will be building their dream college football program, deciding between atmosphere, stadium, and history. These three will be trying to create the best college football team in the world. Guys, take it away.
Thanks, Noah. I'm going to start it off with a very crucial decision, and that is the atmosphere for our college football team. And now there's a lot of great choices. Atmosphere is one of the things that makes college football what it is. What I ultimately ended up deciding on was LSU. Take us to Death Valley. It is the 4th loudest stadium ever recorded. It gets up to 130 decibels. We're going to need that crowd noise. It's going to cause false starts to the other team. It's going to mess with their communication. It is loud, and everyone there is a huge football junkie. It's SEC country. It just means more down there. Everyone loves Death Valley. I can picture Saturday night. It's 7 p.m. kickoff. Alabama's in town. LSU runs out, and the stadium goes wild. The atmosphere is incredible, and we need that on our dream college football team.
And you said loudest stadium.
It's the 4th loudest ever recorded and consistently up there in all the rankings.
Still pretty loud.
Yeah.
Still pretty loud.
You know, I don't really know if I have a problem with that. Our host, Noah Berkowitz, was going, no.
Right, he didn't
but
like it. He
really,
didn't like the
you know,
take,
I like going with that pick, Everest, just because I think it brings something new. We're not talking about Alabama.
Right.
Yes, LSU is a fantastic team. We're not talking about Ohio State.
Yep.
We're not talking about those big teams. But unfortunately, I will be.
Oh, all right.
Come on, you're no fun, Evan.
Yes.
But like you were saying, Everest, you know, it's 7 o'clock, LSU and Alabama live on national TV, SEC on ABC, but it's not in Baton Rouge.
Ooh.
It's not in Baton Rouge. It's not even
Where are we?
in the bayou. Hit it with me. We are headed to the Appalachian Mountains, Boone, North Carolina, Appalachian State University right there, Kid Brewer Stadium. Welcome to The Rock.
Why are we here?
Why are we here?
Yeah.
Are you out of your mind?
Okay, I agree. I agree with Aidan on this.
Really?
Yeah, I love it.
Because he knows game.
Well, yes. One, this picture does not do it justice.
It doesn't.
One, Aidan said this to me. First of all, it's not fall. It has to be fall for this.
Has to.
But it's not always fall when you're playing.
Well, most of the time in football it is. I
right,
hate to
well.
break it to you.
Hey, sure.
Also, there are so many trees at a mountain this way that you can't see. So we're kind of getting robbed there. But
Well,
Aidan,
I
I'll
mean,
let you do
could-
your job here.
Here's the
Yeah.
thing. You build up these stands over here. You move this board up just a little bit, maybe, I don't know, 20 feet. But you build that 70,000 seat stadium. You obviously incorporate LSU's atmosphere. I know people call LA Stadium, they call Dodger Stadium blue heaven on earth. I call Kid Brewer green heaven on earth.
I love that.
Because
I do like that.
Why play anywhere else? You're nestled in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, right in the Blue Ridge. The Parkway's a 10-minute drive. You got so much stuff to do in Boone, and you have to play at Kid Brewer Stadium.
You're winning me over there. I still think it should be maybe BYU or Washington, but you know what?
I'd rather be in the mountains than next to the mountains.
All right.
I also still like Aidan's pick because this is college football. There are so many big-time schools that have huge stadiums that could work for pro teams. That's a real college stadium. If you're playing football there, that's college football.
That's true. I love it.
So there's two of us. Then,
So
right?
yeah, we've got to touch on history, don't we?
we
Well,
need to.
you know, there are some teams, most winningest team in national championship history with Alabama, but we're not going that way.
Really?
I'm going to go with a team that has had the most success over a sustained period of time. History, when I think about it, is all about what happened. And usually when we're talking about history, we're not talking about recent history. This team's got the most in-depth history, in my opinion. Tied for the most Hall of Famers in all of college football in the NFL with UFC is Notre Dame.
Yes.
And Notre Dame, even though it may have taken me a year and a half to get there, is a team that won the 1919 national title, has won the second most national titles in all of college football history with 11, and its most recent title in 88, but they won in 24, 29, 30. They won in the 40s. They won in the 60s. They won in the 70s. They won in the 80s. They haven't won a national championship since, but they were relevant. They were the team in 1919, and you're still talking about them in the top 25 every single year since, which is why I've picked them specifically for history.
And I mean, you want to talk about history. Notre Dame is one of the historical teams that has not aligned with the conference. Now, some of you might be saying, well, Aidan, Notre Dame is part of the ACC. What are you on about? Well, you're right, but you're also wrong. Because the thing is that Notre Dame is an FBS independent, which means they do not have to adhere to a conference schedule, which it helps them and hurts them in some ways. But obviously, we're throwing everything at the kitchen sink and seeing if it sticks. So I like it.
And Notre Dame is one of the few teams, they have an exclusive rights deal with NBC.
That's awesome.
Which is one of the big three original TV companies. The OG.
Imagine your brand. Imagine your college's brand being big enough that that your conference doesn't sign the deal. You do. Sign the deal.
That's right. And I don't see Alabama doing that. I don't see Georgia doing that. I don't see any of the Ivy League schools who were playing football and winning championships way back then doing that. I see Notre Dame doing that.
You didn't even mention Rudy Evans.
Yeah, and how about Newt Rockne as well?
Great film, and
yes. Oh yeah, they've got 2 movies about them.
That's like more than one.
Yeah.
That's impressive. That's our history. I like it.
Hey, give it 20 years, maybe we'll start seeing teams sign individual media deals, though.
Hey, maybe.
All right, thank you guys. I had a lot of fun with that one. You forgot one big thing about Notre Dame too. They put real gold in their helmets. That's some real Fighting Irish lore for you. But I've been your host, Noah Berkowitz. This has been the Box Score. Thank you to all of our amazing correspondents and crew, along with our immensely talented control room. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Good night.